Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic and wonderful and amazing. It's raining here still. It's been raining for like a week. My grass is disgusting. And I know I said yesterday that I ordered the games and I was excited because my brain was quiet, but the reality is it hasn't been that quiet. In fact, I've been a little bit antsy because I don't have these 3 projects in my head, and kind of like, I think I did a video last year or 2 years ago about, when you finish a video game and you hit that slump. Like, I think there's a post-project slump for me as well. I'm not necessarily in a slump because I still have stuff I can do. I'm still working on rules, and I'm still working on components. Yesterday, I got a shipping notice for the Utilities game. So the Utilities game will show up this week as I expected, and I'd like to have it to take to board game night next week, which means I need to remake some of the components. I made some of the wooden components out of plywood, and I don't like them. The plywood that I have is not great, and running it through the table saw makes it all kind of chippy feeling, and I don't like the feeling of them. Plus, I used Mod Podge to glue on the labels, and so it's kind of rough and weird. And so I bought label paper and a hole punch, and I'm going to remake all of the wooden components for the game. It's not a whole lot of effort. I mean, it's not a whole lot of effort, but it just needs done kind of thing. And so I've got that sort of stuff to do. But as far as design goes, my brain has been active, especially on the Viking game. And I think part of the reason is because the Viking game is not really a Viking game. I mean, it is. It's got that theme, and I think that theme is a good theme. But the original theme was based around this historical event, and I'm pulling it away from that and just not even trying to force this game into a historical context and make it more like a generic city building type game, just set with a Viking theme. And I like it much better for that, but I've thought up a whole bunch of ideas. Like yesterday at lunch, I had ideas for card interactions that I hadn't considered before. I was like, oh, I could do this and I could do that. And so there's still design work going on in my head. Long ago, I had written down notes about asymmetric player powers. Basically, each player in the game is a Jarl, so you would get a Jarl card that represents you, and you would get some sort of asymmetric powers. The game uses dice. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but I've also thought about the asymmetry also applying to each character's dice. So there's still thoughts, but a lot of these thoughts, the good part about it is, number one, I'm excited enough about the designs to be thinking about them. And the thoughts that I'm having they're more big picture ideas. Like, all right, if this works, what's the next step? Well, I could try this and I could try that. And it gives me lateral room when I'm talking to a potential publisher to say, listen, I've got these ideas and these ideas and these ideas. And I think that's helpful. And speaking of, I know I asked a while back if anybody knew any publishers who would be interested in these types of games. And the response that I got was kind of like, well, you know the publishers. And I do. I know a lot of publishers. Kinda. Like, I used to know a lot of publishers. Most of the publishers that I knew were smaller people who aren't around anymore, or they've moved companies, or they just, their company doesn't exist anymore because they don't really make games anymore. And so I don't really have any ins, right? I don't have people that I can reach out to and say, listen, I'm looking for feedback. So I've received 0 responses from publishers. I guess that's not technically true. I have contacted a publisher who I know, whose company I very much respect and admire, but I've contacted him more through a friendly channel, like, hey, would you be willing to look over my games and give me some feedback? Not, would you be willing to consider my games for publication? Because I think those are 2 very separate, very, very separate questions, right? And so I reached out to him saying, listen, I think I really appreciate his particular tastes in medium to heavyweight games, and I want him to look at this these couple of games that I have and give me some feedback on mainly like, is this financially feasible to produce games with this many components? Am I way out of my scope on this? Is this something that I should be? Does he personally think it's ready to be shopped around? I'm looking for personal information there, and he's agreed to meet with me. So, I mean, I guess I have reached out to a publisher, but I'm not going into that expecting him to give me, I'm not expecting him to say I want to publish this. I don't think he will at all. So I guess, the 6 publishers, I've reached out to 6 publishers that I don't really have a whole lot of familiarity with. I mean, I'm familiar with their games, and I'm familiar with some of the people that work there, but I'm not familiar with their publishing pipeline. I'm not familiar with their pitch processes or anything like that. And I've heard back from 0 of them. Exactly 0. So I don't know if I even fit in this space anymore, like truthfully, and that's perfectly okay. I have come to the realization, especially with the utilities project, that I don't necessarily know if that game is publishable, especially as it sits. I think that it has publishing potential, but the potential maybe isn't fully realized. And I think that it's a game that, if left to my own devices, I'm never going to self-publish it. It's just going to be one of those games that I have in my personal collection and people can play it with me, and that's how it lives the rest of its life. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Chevee 6 years ago, when I was actively pursuing publication, I don't think I would have been okay with that. I really wanted to be published. I really was looking for a breakthrough into the game design world. I wanted to be a published designer. Now, I would like to be a published designer, but I don't have that's not the pie in the sky goal for me. The pie in the sky goal for me is to make games that I enjoy playing and that are fun and that can fill a void in my collection. And so I have a 2-player train game that Em and I really enjoy playing, and it fills a void in my collection. And I think it would fill the void in a lot of other collections. I just think that void is not big enough for a publisher to really consider publishing it. So it might fall to me. If I want this game to be in somebody's hands, if I want to give it to you to play, it might require me to put in the effort. And I'm okay with that too. And as the Viking game, I think I've missed the mark on that game. I think that 8 years ago when I showed it to Mayfair, it was something fresh and new. I think that at 8 years ago when I showed it to Mayfair, it had huge potential. I think now it has much less potential. I think that the mechanics in that game, I think that the flow of that game has already been done over the last 8 years several times, and I think the game has much less potential. Do I think it's a less of a game? No, I think it's a great game. I really enjoy playing it, and I think that others will as well, but I'm not expecting a publisher to take a chance on it because I think it has a component cost that is a little bit extreme. So that one too might just fall to me to do something with. Is it possible for me to publish that game? It would take a huge Kickstarter because it would require a lot of art. Not the kind of game that I would sit down and want to do the DTP or the graphic design. I would want to hire that out. I would want to hire all the art out. I would need thousands of dollars for art assets and layout and design and all of that. And I don't know that that's possible with my work schedule and everything else on top of it, unless I decided to start a company and that was what I was going to do with my life. So that game too might just be this game that me and my friends get to play. And maybe it's on Tabletop Simulator or something. I don't know. But I've got I was excited last month about the potential for pitching these games, and I'm still very excited about the potential for pitching these games, but my expectations have been lowered dramatically to the point that I'm not sure that I'm even going to have pitch meetings at this point. We shall see. So I hope that wasn't like a downer, because I don't feel down about it. I feel very excited about it still. I still feel like I've got 3 awesome games that I've designed, and I can't wait to share them with my friends. If it never goes beyond that, that's still awesome, right? I've still done something really cool. But I hope that it can become more. I still hope for that. And I'm still going to pursue other designs that I hope have more broader appeal. But we'll see what happens. And I still have a game at a publisher right now. I submitted a game earlier this year to a publisher, and it's being considered for publication. So, I don't know. Maybe I am doing something right. We shall see. Time will tell, right? That's all I have for you. It is game night. I am probably going to go play games. I haven't made up my mind on that yet because I have some things to do, and I won't be able to get there until later. And generally getting there late means I'm not in on the first round of games, and then I don't want to do anything after everybody's done. We shall see. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is harry. It is a verb meaning to torment with constant attacks. At middle night, great cats with silver claws, bodies of shadow and blind eyes like pearls, came up out of the hole, and red-eared hounds with long white bodies came out of the air, suddenly ran at them, and harried them. William Butler Yeats, an Irish poet and dramatist. Harry. Harry. I did not do that poem reading justice whatsoever. I murdered that.